This lecture is on chapter 13, specifically on reducing conflict. We did a lecture on reducing aggression, so this is how to reduce conflict. A quote as usual, conflict is the nature of the world. Comfort is the nature of the self. Amidst the conflict, seek comfort. So let's begin simply by defining conflict. Conflict is serious disagreement and argument about something important. If two people or groups are in conflict, they have had a serious disagreement or argument and have not yet reached agreement. Social dilemma, that's another concept that's mentioned in your textbook, so let's define that. A social dilemma is a situation in which individual interests conflict with collective interests, leading to suboptimal outcomes for the group as a whole. It arises when people's self-interested choices result in consequences that are detrimental to the larger community or society. So essentially, social dilemma arises when my personal decisions conflict with larger society or conflict with group decisions. So let's look a little bit further. How do we resolve this? Regulation or rules and laws. For example, paying taxes. If I'm left with the option to pay taxes or not, it would be more beneficial to me, obviously, to not pay taxes because I would have more money. However, this would not be beneficial for society because there would be less money to fund government programs. This dilemma is resolved because the government, of course, mandates that we pay taxes. Rules and laws might be even more effective if there is a payoff for my adherence. For example, if I buy an electric car, I'll get a break on my taxes. So I'm even more likely to pay taxes if I get a certain deduction. For buying an electric car, we get deductions for having a child. So I'm more likely to do it if I get those payoffs. The smaller the group, the less conflict. Obviously, this doesn't work with paying taxes because the US population is huge. However, imagine doing a group project with 5 other people and there's a disagreement. The small size of the group would reduce conflict because each person feels more responsible and effective. People also feel more identified with a group's success when the group is smaller. So the smaller the group, the less likely there will be disagreement and conflict. Communication within a group reduces conflict. Discussing the dilemma forges a group identity, which enhances concern for everyone's welfare. It devises group norms and expectations and pressures members to follow them. It enables them to commit themselves to cooperation. So communication, as you can imagine, reduces conflict across a group. Communication is always a good thing. So let's look at reducing conflict between individuals within a group. Contact. In general, contact between those of different groups predicts tolerance. This occurs partially because contact reduces the dehumanization of outgroups. Getting to know people who seem different often communicates their common humanity. So why does that work? Why does having contact with someone in a different group predict tolerance? It reduces anxiety. More contact brings greater comfort. It increases empathy. Contact helps people put themselves in the other's shoes. It humanizes others. It enables people to discover their similarities instead of their differences. And it decreases perceived threats, alleviating overblown fears and increasing trust. However, it is worth noting that although positive contact can reduce conflict, if you have negative contact, it actually might increase conflict. So if a group experiences common threats, that's also a way to reduce conflict. Survivors of shared pain or more extreme crises such as a bombing also often report a spirit of cooperation and solidarity rather than everyone for themselves panic. Such friendliness is common among those who experienced a shared threat. However, even though this seems to be effective, we wouldn't want to threaten a group of people just to make them more cohesive, of course. We don't want to threaten a group of people with a bomb just because we want to make them get along together. But it does seem to create more agreement when people are threatened with something like a bomb. Superordinate goals. If a group has goals that unite all in a group and require cooperative effort. For example, if a group of people come together with the goal of increasing the support of a political candidate, it is less likely that there will be conflict within the group because they all have the same goal, so they're more likely to agree. Bargaining, an agreement or contract establishing what each party will give, receive, or perform in a transaction between them. This is usually mutually beneficial. Both sides of the disagreement are going to gain benefit from it. So they are able to come to an agreement because of that. Another way to resolve conflict is mediation, which is a voluntary, consensual process that uses a neutral third party to facilitate the negotiation of disputes. The goal, of course, is to reach a binding settlement agreement. So essentially, someone else who's totally unbiased solves your dispute. Arbitration takes it a step further. This is a formal process where parties select, again, a neutral third party called an arbitrator to resolve a dispute. The arbitrators will render a final and binding decision. And I think the difference between that and mediation is a little more, a little nicer. Arbitration is more where the neutral party is completely going to make the decision on their own instead of discussing with the two people what they would like to come to. So I have another quote here at the end, and I've always loved this quote. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. So thank you for listening, and certainly let me know if you have any questions.